Welcome to White Sands National Park, every camera's nightmare. And we just got here, and well, it's actually our nightmare too. Debbie and I we have such fair skin, we're so white. We tried to wear dark clothes so you might be able to see us. But we're going to go inside and take a look at the visitor center, and then see what activities they have for today, and then go around the dunes and see what's here. It should be fun, and we'll see you inside. We're here at the visitor center. Debbie's going to go inside and get her stamp, and we'll take a look around and see what activities they have for today. The visitor center is open from 9 to 6 every day, and the park just another hour later. They host several little things like sunset strolls and a movie inside, which is well worth watching. Get your parks pass stamped. Hey.
Hi, how are you?
Great.
Our movie's just beginning to begin.
Oh, okay.
Theater, yeah.
Let's go watch. All right, thank you. We'll go to watch the movie.
Enjoy.
The rangers are extremely friendly, and I highly encourage you to watch the movie. We learned a lot about this area and how the dunes were formed and how the plants and animals survive. This park covers 275 square miles of the largest dunes in the world. We entered the Loop Drive and just decided to look around. You can easily see this park in half a day. I mean, it's spectacular to look at, but there's not a whole lot you can do. The best times are actually at night during a full moon tour. I would love to see this in the dark with a full moon. I bet it's beautiful. But can you imagine driving over this and looking at this? It's just spectacular and so bright white. You would think this basin, being in the Chihuahuan Desert, would be extremely hot, but this bright white gypsum sand is actually cold to the touch, and it keeps it cooler. We learned in the movie it was really interesting how the lizards and wildlife and plants have adapted to this environment, have even evolved to blend in. Well, we're here at the end from the visitor center. We drove to the end of the trail that takes you up into the day use area. I've got a white truck. Dave and I are both white. Everything we've got is white, so I don't know if you can see us or not, or my truck. But it is pretty spectacular. I mean, here in the middle of a desert is just these amazing white dunes, white sand. And you know, I kind of think of sand as being something made out of silicon, but actually this material is gypsum that blows out of the mountains, the winds come out of the south. The gypsum dissolves out of the mountains, runs into these lakes, and the lakes dry up, evaporate, and it leaves these gypsum crystals. And over time, as the winds blow across those crystals, that breaks them up, and eventually all the dust from the crystals, gypsum settles here. It's the same stuff they use in plaster and drywall, but it's real interesting how it feels. It's kind of crusty, but it feels just like normal sand. And at the visitor center, you can actually rent sleds that they allow you to slide down almost like snow down these dunes, but Debbie and I decided not to do that. We've watched other people on videos do it, and I don't think it works very well, but it's something you can say you've done. We're going to walk up here to one of the dunes, just get a bird's eye view of our surroundings, just to see what else is here. I see tracks in the sand. It must be an elusive desert predator. Oh no, it's just Debbie. Hey, Deb. This really is pretty amazing. And one thing I would suggest is certainly bring your sunscreen, because this white sand reflects so much light. In fact, the sand isn't even hot. And a lot of the animals and insects here have even adapted and evolved to be white instead of brown like the rest of the desert. The lizards and even the grasshoppers and things have evolved to be more of a lighter color. obviously so predators can't find them. But it's just an amazing place, these dunes. And our footprints will be covered up, and probably by tomorrow from the winds and the changing shifts of the sand. Another part I find kind of interesting is where some of the sands that we were walking over is real loose and fine. Other parts, like this area here, is just, it's hard as a rock. You know, it's in like, it's pieces and real hard. It's almost like, I don't know if it's gotten moisture and hardened like you would plaster, or if there's rock under it. I don't think there's rock under it. I think it's just hardened gypsum. But I just thought that was kind of neat too. So some parts you can walk over easily, and then some parts you can hardly walk up because of the loose sand. See, like that part is hard, and just beside it is loose sand. Another neat thing, we saw fossils of footprints of early man and the giant sloth and things like that, that their footprints had like stuck in the plaster and left really good imprints. So that was kind of a neat thing in the visitor center to see. How this was formed is interesting. It's one of the most difficult things to photograph, just simply because everything's so bright white and the camera has a hard time with the brightness and contrast and stuff. So I don't know if you could even get an idea of how beautiful this is, but it is just as white as it gets, white as sugar. The whitest sands I've seen, certainly, and I've been all around Florida and Panama City and those areas, and Seagrove and Destin, and they have like sugar white sands too, and I know there's other beaches that do, but it's still fascinating to see something like this out in the middle of the desert. Usually the sand is brown, but this is just so white, bright white. It's bright, isn't it?
Beautiful.
Even with sunglasses, it's hard to see. Well, let's go check out some of the picnic areas and other areas in the park. Some of the trails, and there's a boardwalk and other things to learn more about the dunes. There's restrooms along the way, especially places where you can just park and walk around the dunes. And this is the day use area. You can come here and have a picnic, or just stay for the day, bring your trailer or camper or RV. Although I don't know that it's something you would stay there for just all day long, but we enjoyed just driving along, looking at this pristine environment. We drove to the end of the loop and just looked around, but these mounds, you know, people have walked on them, but then all the footprints disappeared and it looks brand new. Well, this part's hard. Yeah, it looks like horses been here. You could ride horses here too. Ooh.
I don't know if this is gonna work.
We're not getting anywhere. Go. Well, a horse got up here. I hear a jet too. It's been flying around. I wonder, this is all inside this basin. I don't know if you can see it, but the mountains are surrounding us on both sides. And these dunes form in the bottom of this basin coming out of the mountains in this valley. It's where the winds deposit all the sand. You can hear the jets overhead maybe. They're probably from the Air Force Base, since this is located by Holloman Air Force Base, and also the White Sands Missile Testing Site. I think that's about 30 miles away, but I wanted to kind of walk down here in between the dunes just to see if we saw any little tracks or wildlife or anything here. I'm really amazed at how this grass or any plants at all could grow in drywall or grow in plaster. I mean, that's amazing to me. It's crusty, but they explain all of that at the visitor center. There's a movie that we watched that was real interesting on how these plants have adapted and live and reproduce and stay ahead of the shifting sand. So that might be something interesting to watch. I mean, look at this wildflower just blooming its heart out in the middle of this gypsum. I'd walk on this Interdune boardwalk. It's a boardwalk, just kind of walks out. It's a real easy, like 2,000 feet little walk. But this sign here by the walk shows that this is 176,000 acres. It makes up the White Sands area. And we're sort of in the middle. Well, no, we're actually just sort of in the edge. The loop road that we just came from was in the center of the park. So we're going to walk out this boardwalk, just see what it's like. Be something a little bit different and interesting. This has been a national monument for quite some time, but it was actually just officially made a national park in 2019. So it's really a brand new park. These dunes are ever moving, and the plants have to keep ahead and grow faster than the rate of the sand covers them up. So what you see is just the tips of the plants. Before it became a park, gypsum was actively mined here because it was so easy to scoop up and use in so many products. Here's a little interesting fact, is that during your lifetime, it says you will eat an average of 28 pounds of gypsum. So, this sand right here ends up in your cheese, toothpaste, bread, wine, ice cream. In my case, it may be more like 50 or 100 pounds of gypsum, but I love my ice cream. But anyway, that's kind of interesting that this stuff ends up in all your food as well. So I guess the plants live off of it, and I guess we do too. I can see little bitty tracks there in the sand. I don't know if you can see those or not. I really wanted to see one of those little white lizards, but we hadn't seen one yet. This is the end of the boardwalk, and there's just a few little things to read which are interesting. Little facts and more about the park. You can come up here and learn a little bit more about it. Quite a neat place to stop. I don't know if you can see him, but we found one of the little white lizards walking along the boardwalk. Well, on this Interdune boardwalk, we saw this bleached earless lizard. Actual size, that's exactly the way it looked like. And I also saw one of these little beetles. Let's see if it's on the sign too. No, I don't see it. Another inhabitant of the sand dunes. We're going to head off now. I think that's going to wrap it up for the Great Sand Dunes. And interesting place. I mean, it's not the Grand Canyon, but still just a fascinating place to see. Unlike anything else, out of the ordinary, in the middle of the desert, in the middle of the mountains, these beautiful white sugar sands. It's an interesting formation, how they're formed. So you can come by and see it. You can see it pretty quickly in the rest of the day. So enjoy it, and we'll see you at the next national park.